Powered by Go Goat Sports in partnership with TSN. It is episode 68, season 4 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, and it is presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Ray Ferraro joining us here on the podcast, as he always does, but not always from Dallas, Texas. So what's your gut feel like, Ray, going into Game 4 tonight? Do we see back-to-back sweeps, or is there enough push here left in this Dallas Stars team to extend the series?
Dregs, it was so overwhelmingly depressing from a Dallas standpoint in Game 3. Like, if you said, I'm going to give you 5 things that make this the worst night possible for the Dallas Stars, you would have picked that game. Like, it was a disaster, all of it. Right from a minute 11 in, it's 1-0. Benn's cross check, 3 goals in 7 minutes. The goalie's out of there. The fans throwing stuff on it was a mess. No Benn tonight, suspended, right, for 2 games. I guess we'll get to that. Doubtful for Evgeny Dodonov.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't see how Dallas can muster enough, because you can win one game without anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can always work your way around it. But I just think these are 2 pieces they don't have even partial replacements for. So I do think Vegas is going to win.
All right, we'll get to headlines in just a moment. I know you like good stories, right? And I think this is a good one, especially from the service industry. And you lean on the service industry a lot, right?
Yes, sir.
So Holly Dreger had to get her vehicle into the local mechanic shop, Precision Auto, here in Brooklyn, Ontario. And I say that with a shout out because I've never been there, but she had some sort of issue with her vehicle. Takes it in. Turns out it was a muffler problem, but all they had to do was clip the muffler back into its bracket because it was kind of making noises. So a clip broke, okay? So get the call yesterday. Okay, the vehicle's ready. Come and get it whenever you are. And when we dropped this thing off, Ray, there would have been 25 cars in line to get into this shop. These guys are buzzing. There's people buzzing around. Anyway, go to pick the vehicle up. No charge. No, it's not going to cost you. It's going to cost you $0. And the reason was, it doesn't matter. But the guy's like, you know what? It literally took us 6 minutes. It was a clip that fell off. We put the clip back on. Don't worry about it. How good is that? Hey,
see, that's really nice. And you're going back there.
Oh, yes, I am. Today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Can I give you one? Can I give you a muffler story?
Yes.
So as I've mentioned 100 times before, my first roommate was Dean Evison, the head coach of the Minnesota Wild. So we bought a car for $600, an AMC Matador.
Yes,
had some issues, as you can imagine. A car for $600, although it was 1984. So we're driving somewhere, and there's this god awful noise. I know nothing about vehicles. I know nothing about anything that moves. I'm useless.
Yeah.
Dean pulls the car over, and he goes, the muffler's loose. He gets under the car, and he goes, the muffler's loose. And he goes, hey, look for some rope in the trunk. Why there would be rope in the trunk, I don't know. So I'm back there looking under the trunk, and I hear this noise, and all of a sudden the whole muffler comes flying out from underneath the car. It was so rusted, he just pulled the muffler off and pitched it out from underneath the car. So we drove it with no muffler the rest of the year.
Why wouldn't you? And it sounded mean, right?
Bull. We called it the Bull, the AMC Matador. That was our machine, all right.
There you go. You get everything on the Ray and Dregs podcast, including muffler stories. So why wouldn't you? Headlines, Ray, presented by our friends at Tim Hortons. And in headlines, we touched a little bit on the Western Conference Final. We'll dive more into the suspension and all that's expected to happen in Game 4 tonight. But let's go to the Eastern Conference Final last night. And man, what a playoff run Matthew Tkachuk continues to have. Sergei Bobrovsky, okay, I mean, he was beatable in that game last night. Obviously, sure. Carolina found a way to get to him, but still rock solid. So where do you want to start? If we start with Matthew Tkachuk, and we talked about him in the last episode of Ray and Dregs, just how his game has come together because he's so super focused. But is he also a great example, Ray, of a player in the postseason where, the hard work is paying off, but the puck finds him too, doesn't it? In key situations, it finds him.
Well, that's what being hot also entails, is like,
yeah.
Like sometimes, like there are many games. I'm sure Matthew would tell you the same, that he leaves the game, he's got no points, he's -2, and he goes, "Geez, I played a hell of a game."
Yeah.
Like it just didn't happen for you. When you get hot, you feel like you can score and will score every night. I I had that stretch. I had 13 goals in 20 games in the playoffs in '93. Like I went to the rink and I knew I was going to score every game.
Wow.
Now that's not possible, but I just knew it. And somehow the puck comes to you and you make the right play.
Yeah.
Like if he's not feeling as good as he is right now, when he comes out around the net,
Yeah.
he probably shoots that right away. But because everything's probably just a half a second slower for him right now. He's like, no, I can get to the other side. And he just works around Freddie Anderson and throws it in the open side. He's built for this though. Like he doesn't get flustered. I talked about his maturity I see in his game. Like he's in the scrum, but he's not in the scrum.
Yeah.
Before he'd go in the scrum and then go sit in the penalty box for 2 minutes. He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He's too valuable. And man, he's just had like an amazing run. The 3 game winning goals in the one series is almost unprecedented.
Yeah.
Just a remarkable stretch of play for him. And how about their team though, Dregs?
Yeah.
Like, did you see that stat? I saw it this morning. They were in a playoff spot 28% of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy
Yeah.
that they could be here. I guess St. Louis was 32% in 2019 when they won the cup.
Yeah.
But 28%, that counts the first day of the season when everybody's in. Like, that's amazing.
Okay, so let's just deep dive a little bit into that goal. We've talked about Matthew Tkachuk. What do you think of the goalie interference review? I thought the right call ultimately was made. And then back it up a little bit in terms of the tripping penalty on Jordan Staal. Again, I don't like piling on the officials. That point of the game, with everything that's at stake, would we really have said, yeah, that's a missed penalty? Or are you of the mind, hey, if it's a penalty, I don't give a rat's you know what. If there's 20 seconds left in game 4 of a potential sweep, or there's 58 minutes left in game 4 of a potential sweep.
Goalie interference, I think they got right. I don't think there was enough or really much of anything there,
right,
for them to overturn that. I'll tell you the reason I didn't like the penalty, because Dregs, I'm firmly on the side, if it's a penalty, you call it.
Yes, yes, you are.
I don't know, was it 30 seconds before that? Same place on the ice. Duclair ran over top of some defense. I forget which defenseman it was. Went right over top of him, had his stick up. It was
high stick, yeah.
It was a high sticking penalty. If you let that go, then you let the next one go. And that goes down that slope of now you're letting too much go.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't like the penalty. I mean, it is a tripping penalty, but I didn't like it because of the one that happened like literally moments before.
How about that? I mean, Sam Bennett, we've talked a lot about on the podcast to this point, and rightfully so, because when healthy, man, he is dangerous in so many different ways. That hit on Slavin was next level. Now you're concerned immediately because you could tell that Slavin was he was hurt on the play. Let's be frank here, right? I mean, he was wobbling and didn't. I mean, the good news is after the game he acknowledged he's fine, but Sam Bennett is that player, isn't he, Ray? Where you, as an opposing forward, defenseman, whatever, you damn well know when he's on the ice because he can take you out in many different forms.
Well, lots of guys maybe could make that hit, but the way physically he's built and the way that he hits, it must be like running into like a dead end stop, right? Because the way that Slavin left his feet on the hit, and I don't think there's any discussion at all whether it was a clean hit or not.
It was
because
clean.
It was.
Yeah.
He glided into the hit, kept his stick down, and he literally hit him on the button, because when he hit him, Slavin went straight backwards and his feet came off the ice. And that's great news that that he's okay. You know what that hit reminded me of, Dregs? Do you remember last year when Evgeny Svechnikov, I got the brothers mixed up. Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah, Andre, yeah,
yeah. Andrei Svechnikov hit Hampus Lindholm in the same play coming around the net. He hit Lindholm, and Lindholm was out for much of that series. I want to say almost 10 days.
Right.
It was the same hit. The D is in a real tough spot when that puck doesn't sit for them and they got to come around the back of the net.
Yeah.
And timing wise, Svechnikov was there for Lindholm and Bennett was there for Slavin.
Yeah. Well, that is the Eastern Conference final. Do you think that there is anyone happier than Brooks Koepka? I mean, the players and the organization, of course, but Koepka is living his best life, on the heels of winning another major championship. I mean, he is obviously a diehard Panthers
fan. What a great week for him. I would hope Aaron Ekblad finds a pylon, a traffic cone, and signs it and sends it to him. It says, "Keep coming to the games."
No kidding. All right, slide into the West now. And we touched on it off the top of the podcast. Jamie Benn gets 2 games for the cross-check on Mark Stone. The good news is here again, Stone was not injured on the play, but how about, I hope that Ben didn't use this as his defense in the hearing with George Parros and Department of Player Safety, that he was falling and he used the stick to brace himself in that fall, and it just coincidentally, accidentally landed on the head of Mark Stone. I mean, I'm a bit surprised. Okay, granted, Jamie decided that he wasn't going to do his media availability post-game.
Okay, which I don't like.
No.
I don't like it from a team standpoint. I don't like it from a team standpoint, from a player standpoint, nor a league standpoint. That's a key moment. Somebody should say, I know you don't want to, but just go make a quick statement and get out of there. You don't have to take a bunch of questions because you don't want to get into some emotional response.
Just own it. You made a mistake.
Just say, look, bad play, whatever you want to say. But honestly, he doesn't even have to take questions. Just go up there, make a statement that you've thought about for 2 hours because the game's going on. And so anyways, that was my thought on that.
But wasn't it bizarre then? He does meet the media yesterday early in the day before the hearing and offers that response. I mean, nobody who saw that play would agree with his take. That didn't happen the way he said.
That didn't happen. There's no way to defend the play. And Mark Stone's lucky, and Jamie Benn's lucky that Stone wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
That could have gone south a lot of different ways. And all I could think of as I was watching it is what is he doing?
Yeah.
It wasn't even far enough into the game yet.
I know.
That you would be that out of, that revved up.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lack of discipline. Certainly. It's extremely costly.
Mm-hmm.
And from the first goal to that penalty, which happened in very short order, that entire building was, you could just feel it. It was it was off.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that was the best press conference that's ever been done.
All right. Well, I still feel like even though there's a ton of adversity that the Stars are facing without Benn, without Donanov, as you talked about earlier, I still feel like Dallas does have some push. Or do you think Vegas is just not going to let an opportunity like this slip away?
I do think they have some push. I do think they'll play as hard as they can. I do think they'll empty the tank. But with their full lineup, they scored 3 goals in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 3? No, 4. 4 goals in the series because they lost. 4-3 and Oh, you know what? If I could add, it's 5 goals. They lost 4-3 and 3-2.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how you can forget
our math
the games.
is a challenge this morning.
But I'm doing the games.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the score. Anyway, but they haven't gotten anything outside from the forwards of that top line.
Yeah.
Benn had an empty net goal in game 1, but he was out there with the top line. So if you're trying to build a case for Dallas. What makes you think tonight's the night?
Yeah.
Now I saw they called up Maverick Bork
Yeah.
from their American League team that had been eliminated. Basically, it's a paper transaction, but so maybe he'll draw in tonight. But
Yeah.
they don't have a lot of options to try and replace those guys.
Well, so I'm just having a look here. I took Joe Pavelski as one of my Tim Hortons picks. And
Yep.
only because Joe has that ability, right? To have, as we've seen, we've witnessed in this Stanley Cup run, he has the
Yep.
ability to have a special night. So they're going to need that from Joe, from Jason Robertson, go down the list.
So
Otherwise it ends.
so this is the end of a long year. Joe's 38.
Yeah.
He's had, I think he's got, well, not I think, he's got 4 shots in the 3 games in the series.
Yeah.
Like, like it's a hard,
Yeah.
they're in a hard place here. And the guy to me that has to crack the game open for them is Rope Hintz.
Yes.
He's the one guy that's big enough and more and powerful enough to open up the ice for.
Yeah.
He needs to find a way to open up the ice for Robertson and Pavelski, because I don't know if that's coming.
How do you feel about previewing the Stanley Cup final? Do we just pump the brakes here a little bit? Because obviously we're going to do that. We're going to talk about Vegas and Florida. Florida's punched its ticket. It feels most likely Vegas will, or do you just want to let's just hold on that until at least next week? If we wait on it, we can do that deeper analysis with the series expected to start on Wednesday.
Well, I think we should wait, Dregs, because if we preview the series now, what the hell are we going to talk about Tuesday? Do we have coaching news by Tuesday? Do we have GM news? Do we have GM news by Tuesday?
Maybe. Well, why don't we go there then? That's a good point. We know that Kyle Dubas, formerly of the Toronto Maple Leafs, has at least had a conversation, met with Sidney Crosby, captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we knew that Dubas had been granted permission by the Leafs to speak with the Penguins. What we don't know is it for just the general manager job? Could it be both president and general manager? Is he talking to Sid about what Sid's plans are in the very near future here? And is he going to weigh all of that into his determination as to whether or not he wants a job or those jobs in Pittsburgh? So kind of a curious meeting, I would say.
Well, I mean, you go back to last summer when there was all that talk about whether the big 3 would be back or not. Given the way the year went, has anything changed? Is Dubas not already the GM, but is he moving forward with these conversations about this is my plan? Are you on board with that plan or not? And if Sid isn't on board with that plan, does that mean that Dubas isn't the GM? Like, it's really an odd dynamic. It really, really is.
Yeah.
There is lots of work to do in Pittsburgh. They don't have a lot of prospects. They don't have a lot of draft picks.
Yeah.
Clearly, the guys are getting older. The big boys there, and you can see some legit holes in that roster. So it's Pittsburgh would be a big job.
Well, and it makes sense that Kyle would want to have those conversations before embracing that job. And I, not to get too far ahead in the general manager search of Brendan Shanahan and the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I know they spent considerable amount of time with Brad Treliving earlier this week, right? A front runner.
Okay, so Dregs, if I'm interviewing for the GM spot in Toronto, and
same thing, right?
I know that Brendan Shanahan, because I read it, has talked to the 4 big guys, Nylander, Marner, Matthews, and Tavares, and says, my intention is to bring you all back. I want to know, am I making the decisions or are you making the decisions?
Right.
Because what if your view is I want to change the mix a bit, but your boss says, well, yeah, I've already called everybody and they're all coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So, or my intention is that they're all coming back. So that would be something that I would want certainly to clarify before I took a step down the road there.
Yeah, and it's they're big challenges. And if you're Treliving, any general manager candidate for that matter, and it is an ongoing process. We're not anointing Treliving as the GM just yet, but he just went through hell last summer in Calgary, right? Like,
Yeah.
tried to convince Johnny Gaudreau to stay. That didn't work out. So he walks for nothing, as Craig Conroy talked about in his announcement as the new GM of the Calgary Flames. And then you deal with Matthew Tkachuk, trade him to the Florida Panthers, and the season just unravels at your feet. So from an experienced GM perspective, yeah, you want to manage in the league again, but you're looking at what you have to face. What if Austin Matthews says there's zero chance I'm making any decision before or on July 1st? Well, no move kicks in on July 1st, right? So your leverage just goes poof as the GM, So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds.
I mean, those clauses that kick in for him and Marner are they're real. Like they become significant things to deal with. And the Nylander extension pops open July 1st too, correct?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I found it really interesting listening to Craig Conroy that, after, he said they thought they had Gaudreau, he was, then they didn't, and he went in his office and closed the door and sat there and went, "Oh, we just lost our mistake. We just lost our best player for nothing."
Yeah.
And, so how they went down the road and they got to that point and they let it play out and and so you can always say, "Oh, well, we got cap space back," but good for you. You got a bunch of money and you don't have a 90-point guy. And, one thing led to another, and in a week it all unraveled there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found it really instructive probably to a lot of GMs that they would look and go, there's certain guys I can let walk into their last year, and there's probably other guys I can't.
All right, let's look at available coaches before we wrap up headlines. And we can slot them in and create, kind of discussion points on why we think that this guy is the right fit there. I mean, whatever. It sounds like the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to make their call early next week or at some point next week. We know that Laviolette interviewed there. We know that Mike Babcock is a candidate there. Andrew Burnett interviewed there earlier this week. I mean, Bruno, as you know, you're a good buddy of his. He... there's lots of interest in Andrew Burnett around the National Hockey League.
By the way, I got to say,
he
is a vault.
He's not giving you any intel, is he? You wouldn't bug him about that anyway.
I wouldn't ask him. There's no way I'd ask him. But when you said he interviewed in Columbus, I went, "Oh, I didn't know that." And so it's really a swirl of names everywhere, right? Like Spencer Carberry is, his name's out and around, and
Anaheim,
there's he is one. Ryan Huska's in Calgary. He's probably getting a little bit of view. You've got Babcock and Laviolette of the older guard, and so it's Brunette. It's hard to piece where they all fit, and do they fit, and where they fit. It's interesting time.
Yeah, and throw Travis Green into that mix, right?
By the way, Travis Green
for sure, and he should be. And if you're Calgary, though, again, we'll wrap up headlines here, but if you're Calgary, don't you feel like you've got to bring in some experience? And I would include Travis Green and Andrew Burnett as having some experience, not to the level of Gerard Gallant, as an example. And, he has to be considered a front runner, if for no other reason, based on his relationship, which I'm told is terrific, with Jonathan Huberdeau. Like, they've got to get Jonathan Huberdeau comfortable and producing again. But a real good collection, I would think, for Craig Conroy to sift through.
Yeah, so I guess the first step would be defining what you want in your coach before you start those meetings, and then having an open enough mind to go, this is what I want, but this guy just tweaked something here, and I'm like, that's really good too. It's it's a big hire, and for Craig Conroy, it'll be his first really big move in in Calgary. By the way, do we get a little bump or anything, a finder's fee or something or other from Dave Nonis? Do we get anything for that?
No, I mean, maybe if he had gotten a GM job,
Oh, okay. So we get
maybe.
nothing for this. Eh?
No,
Nothing.
we get nothing. And trust me when I tell you, you say that Bruno is a vault with you, and I mean, you don't poke around. I have to.
No.
That's what I do. That's the definition of my job. All the people that have historically said, "Oh, Dave Nonos feeds Dreger everything," they're buddies, they're related. All this, he's terrible. He is brutal. Like, number one, he doesn't answer his phone, and number two, he doesn't answer text messages, and number three, he just doesn't play that game. So I don't like my chances.
Nothing there.
Getting
Nothing
the big
there.
scoops at Calgary. All right, Ray. Those are the headlines presented by our good pals at Tim Hortons.